CVM See It Happen.
It's Tuesday, October 8, 2024. Welcome to CVM News at Noon. I'm Nika Lewis. After the announcement by the government to discontinue unexplained wealth orders as an anti-money laundering priority, co-chair of the Crime Monitoring and Oversight Committee, George Overton, says the government was initially on board with strengthening legislation surrounding unexplained wealth orders, intended to empower the courts and investigators to mandate individual subjects to financial investigation to prove their source of wealth to be legitimate.
Stakeholders who came together pre-2020 in their deliberations came up with some 34 items that formed the Memorandum of Understanding for the 2020 signing of August 2020 signing of the Consensus on Crime document. And in there was the introduction of an unexplained wealth order. This was agreed to and signed on by the government, the opposition, and some 23 stakeholder groups from civil society. And since 2020, CMOC has been monitoring the progress of the items on this memorandum. It got to a point where going along fine, and we got to where the introduction of the unexplained wealth orders, which I will refer to as UWOs, yes, came to be due for progress and delivery. And we kept getting reports that pushed it further back. And eventually, the government has moved away from the table on the crime consensus, and we have got no further indications from them on the progress.
Meanwhile, transparency advocate and chair of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, Carol Narcisse, says constitutional concerns should not stall the amending of legislation to strengthen undisclosed wealth orders. She believes our drafting system in Jamaica is competent enough to get the job done.
We have a long and well-developed history of legal drafting in Jamaica. And we have legal scholars of great renown. So it's not beyond our capacity to, in the 3 or 4 years that this has been a part of the crime consensus agreement, that this matter would have been addressed. It's not beyond us to do the kind of proper legal work in the drafting. It's not beyond us to look at the various models that exist in the world and to craft constitutionally sound and consistent legislation. We've been doing this.
Well, residents of Trench Town in Kingston are expressing frustration over uncontrolled sewage water flooding their streets, disrupting business operations and making it difficult for pedestrians to navigate the space. They claim they have made numerous calls to the National Water Commission, NWC, to address the issue, but say action has been repeatedly delayed. One resident shared that she has been forced to threaten drivers to avoid being splashed with the foul water. Meanwhile, business owners report a loss in revenue due to the ongoing situation.
And on the right, the people have a boss say, lock up the shop and race through the water thing.
So it affects the business?
Yeah. It's a ram long time. You see, it's a ram long time. The people see the water and, you know, they call them, some come be return. You know, to come 10 o'clock, they come 8 o'clock, they come 10 o'clock, and them can't reach. And the vehicle pass and touch the water and the people them. And that's right, the people.
Well, taxi operators in Freetown, Clarendon are also voicing their frustration, this time over what they describe as the worsening condition of the roads, claiming potholes, cracks and uneven surfaces are not only damaging their vehicles but also endangering passengers and pedestrian safety.
When you acquire them at school, you have to take up all stone for them to splash you. Because them drive fast, because that them nearly do me this morning. I have to take up 2 stones for them to them say, part of this. I run, because when them driver come in, all them say, them still a speed a come, like them want to wet up. And people will fling stone at them car.
In other news now, in October, breast cancer awareness is promoted through various activities and talks. Speaking on this morning's Pinktober conversation on Sunrise was hematologist and medical oncologist Dr. Tony Barnes, discussing the causes of cancer and who is more at risk.
I think what we need to remember is that cancer, is not just one disease. Cancer is a set of disorders depending on the body part that it comes from. And each one of those cancers has its own risk factors, with genetics being a major part, but lifestyle factors also coming into play as well. One of the genes that we know for sure causes breast cancer, called the BRCA or BRCA gene, that one has been found to cause breast cancer in about 60% of women who have it. So what happens to the other 40%? How do those 40% end up not developing cancer? And it's a really complicated situation, but things like your diet, your lifestyle, whether or not you smoke, how much alcohol you drink, and then other strange little things sometimes that we encounter. There are studies that show people who are tall have a more high chance of getting cancer than people who are short, because tall people have more cells in their bodies. So there are a lot of little strange things. Wow. And things like that can, modulate the risk outside of the genetic factors. Foods that are preserved with sometimes natural, sometimes artificial substances. So we have nitrates and nitrites. That is one preservative that we know is associated with cancer. One that some people might be surprised to hear, things like salting food. Salting food. So salt does increase your risk of certain types of cancers, especially the ones that are in the stomach and in the intestines. It is thought that perhaps some kind of bacteria that lives in the stomach thrives in a salty environment. Also, there are things from the salting of the food, and then when the food kind of sits in the intestines rather than moves along, so if you don't eat a lot of vegetables with them, you don't eat a lot of fiber, the food and those toxic substances sit in the stomach and don't move along, and then when they sit, it then causes irritation, inflammation, and increases your risk of cancer.
To politics now, the Jamaica Labour Party's Matthew Samuda, who recently emerged victorious in the Northeast St. Anne by-election, will be sworn in when Parliament meets today. This election took place on September 30, 2024, following the resignation of former MP Marcia Smith. The results showed Samuda securing 4,820 votes against his closest competitor, independent candidate David Anderson, who garnered only 216 votes. The voter turnout was notably low at approximately 11.6%. Many of the Northeast St. Anne voters have expressed their desire for tangible improvements in areas such as job creation, infrastructure development, and consistent water supply. Samuda is also expected to retake a role in the Andrew Holness-led cabinet, though it is not clear whether he will return to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. A vacancy will also soon arise at the Ministry of Finance. Stay with us. CVM News at Noon continues in a moment.
You will always keep us vibing. Jamaican quality for sure. First thing when I wake up, pour up my bulk syrup. Pure water, me can't get enough. Feeling the love in the air. On the beach with my ginger beer. I'm doing low up on cash. Still can't go buy one splash. Squash, load, catch up, road. Pure, have you ready for the road?
Pure products, quality sure.
Judge Hatchett has seen it all, and with over 20 years on the bench, she knows when someone is trying to get away with it.
This is not on Harold, honey. This is on you.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Name a place, PJ, that older women go to find young men.
The hospital.
What?
Welcome back. It's time for our discussion segment. We are talking about wage matters. Production workers at the Caribbean Cement Company Limited, Carib Cement as many of you would call it, represented by the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, shortened UCASE, are expressing dissatisfaction due to unresolved wage and benefit issues. The union rejected the company's offer of a 13.5% wage increase over 3 years, instead demanding a 40% raise for the same period. Workers are also upset over the company's refusal to pay a 2% profit-sharing benefit for 2023. Despite 7 meetings, no resolution has been reached, and so the union is citing the company's strong financial performance and is pushing for a better offer in the next meeting set for October 8th. That's today. And so we're now being joined by President of UCASE, Mr. Vincent Morrison. Welcome, Mr. Morrison.
Thanks very much for having me.
Right. So for our listeners and viewers, why did the workers reject the 13.5% wage increase offer over that 3-year period?
Totally inadequate, totally unfair, totally unreasonable. And this is within the context, 1, the cost of living, 2, the ability of the company to do better. We know that they can do better. And, we're a bit surprised because the workers really put their shoulders to the wheel. The workers really perform. And, in that context, you expect the company to say, look, we've made good profit. You have done well. We're going to reward you. This is not the case. The management of Caribbean Cement Company, most disappointed, very disappointed that they have not been able to, put on the table some figures, some benefits that will encourage the workers to perform even better over the next financial year.
Understood. But there was supposedly a meeting today. Has that meeting happened, or is it to happen at some point later today?
I speak out of the meeting to talk to you. We have made some improve, not much. They adjusted the wage increase offer.
Are you able to say by how much?
We have rejected that. And we are meeting tomorrow and indeed Friday. And we are hoping that these 2 days, tomorrow and Friday,
yes,
we'll be able to get a package so we can take to the workers at a workers meeting maybe next week, early next week.
Is there a likely room for compromise, and how much compromise are you anticipating that you will say this is fair enough, even if it's not the full 40%?
When you negotiate, there's always room for compromise. We don't negotiate